huge gap in my teeth that my mother warned would happen if I kept playing with my loose front tooth. At 7 years old, making my front tooth dance to I got a new way to walk, 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 was well worth whatever I would look like in the future. 8 years later, I stared in the mirror, cursing those pigs on Sesame Street for introducing me to that song. I had been content with my smile, as everyone loved these marvelous scoops in my cheeks. But on this particular day, I couldn't see my dimples at all, just everything else. Besides this Grand Canyon in my grill, my long, thick black hair was thrown into its usual ponytail, exposing this piercing widow's peak, diving into my thick eyebrows. Going away from my face, things didn't get much better. My boobs were a little too droopy for a 15-year-old. And then there was my huge, high booty. I was short, and my torso was so much shorter than my legs that it looked like I was lugging around a giant boulder on my back. I had never paid attention to what I looked like before, but this was the day that I was about to step to a brother that had it going on. So in Clueless, there's that scene where they go through all of the particular groups that we divide ourselves into in high school. I was absolutely content with my group of band nerds. My hormones, however, were a group that knew no social boundaries and were fixated on the football field. To the gentleman in lucky jersey number 10, Darren Bowman. During the games, the band sat in perfectly straight lines, creating a maroon and gray box that filled an entire section of the bleachers. Us clarinet players sat at the very top. One day, I had been called down front by my band director for goofing around in the stands too much and messing up the formation and being a bad influence and some other blah, blah, blah that I stopped listening to because my eyes rack focused behind him to this fine, tall, milk chocolate specimen. Perfectly posed under the stadium lights, ready to take the Sports Illustrated cover photo. He had his helmet in his hand, hanging down by his left leg, which he had a little more weight on than his right. His bald head was like a perfectly shaped milk dud. His tense almond eyes were focused on whatever play that was happening near the end zone in my direction, so I just stared into his face. The play ended up going the opposite way, so he had to turn around, and I got to see that ass, though. Do you understand? My band director concluded. Yes, sir. I replied and took a long climb back to my row, dreaming of the day that Darren and I would be together. Be together? My friend Patrice teased. Girl, please, he doesn't even know who you are. She was right. There was no Alicia Silverstone to come offer me a makeover so that Darren would notice me. So that next Friday morning, I had to just forgive 7-year-old me and tackle this disaster in the mirror on my own. I pulled down my ponytail, brushed out my hair completely, created the left side part which hid my widow's peak a little, and used a curling iron for the first time to bump my ends. I tightened up my bra straps as high as they would go to maximize the lift. I untucked my shirt in an effort to hide my high waist. There was no hiding this ass, though. I remember feeling very surprised at how different I looked so easily. I also remember thinking, is this what other girls do every day? Earlier that week, I had found that Darren and I were in the same hall for 6th period. My plan was simple, just walk up to him. No big deal. When the bell rang after 5th period, I rushed out of my seat, ran to that hallway, and made it in front of Darren, and just as he was about to turn into his class, hey! I said, probably too loud. He was clearly stunned. I was all of 4'9", and he was well on his way to 6 feet. So it took him the full 2 comedic head turns left to right before he looked down and saw me. Hi, he said, looking quite confused. Your name is Darren, right? Yes, he replied. He waited for what I had to say next. I had nothing else to say. I had nothing else to say. I had nothing else to say. How did I not think beyond, your name is Darren, right? What did I think was going to happen next? What happened next was the bell rang, and he walked past me into his class, and I walked to the office to get my stupid tardy slip. At the game that night, I sat with my chin slumped to my clenched fist, replaying my failure in my head. I glared down from Woodwind Plateau and saw a cheerleader chatting with a player on the sidelines. If only I could be that close. Later, she was almost trampled by the football team as the ball came flying in her direction. She didn't move out of the way. I was sure she was going to get run over. But they all stopped short of crushing her. One of the players even picked her up and whirled her around while she did a little fake scream and then, oh my God, stop it. I rolled my eyes in disgust and jealousy. Further up the sidelines, there was another group of cheer provokers called the Maroon Maniacs. They were buffoons. Clowns, really, often falling over each other, doing half-assed somersaults, dancing, just making fools of themselves on the sidelines, which was totally dumb, and oh my God, I could be a Maroon Maniac! My zany behavior that got me in trouble in the bleachers with the band were golden at Maniac tryouts. I made up some dances that involved rampant use of my big high booty. My truest attempts at doing cartwheels were only hilarious as I never landed on my feet. The Maniacs had found their newest member, and I, while I still marched with the band at halftime, found my way to be on the sidelines during the games. Getting Darren's attention proved to be tough, as he was seldom on the sidelines. It also became less of a priority because the crowd loved me. They would dance with me, echo my calls and responses, and oh, how they laughed when I fell on my ass repeatedly. I was having so much fun that one game I hadn't noticed that the ball was flying in the air towards me. It took several people in the crowd pointing before I turned around to see that the entire starting offense was charging at me. Leading the pack of jerseys was number 10. All the other maniacs had run out of the way, but not this maniac. I stood there waiting for him to come swoop me in his arms and spin me around so I could fake scream and oh my God, stop it. I opened my arms waiting for them to slow down, but none of them was looking at me. Darren was looking up for the ball, and oh no, I had just been thinking this whole time and not moving out of the way, and I was about to get trampled. Luckily, one of the other maniacs grabbed me out of the way just in time, and I did not get crushed. But my ego sure did. That night, I sat in my bed, embarrassed that I ever even attempted to get Darren's attention. It was clear that he would never see me. I was near tears when my phone rang. It was one of the maniacs asking how I was going to top this game's excitement next week. I'll stand in the end zone and maybe they'll score a touchdown. I joked back. We laughed and talked for a while. When I hung up the phone, I walked to my mirror, smiled, and tried to just focus on my dimples. All I could see was my crooked front tooth, which only made me laugh. I got a new way to walk. In my pursuit of a boy, I found this whole new performance outlet that I would have not otherwise ever explored. I cannot declare that I grew to be a woman who does not need a man to motivate her into self-discovery. A few years ago, my very fine actor boyfriend broke up with me in a search for a stage to perform on and prove my worth to him. I landed at the Dallas Comedy House, where I now am a regular performer. It's how I can stand on the stage and share this story with you today. We all have what inspires us. I'm not ashamed to admit that for me, it's a brother that's got it going on.